Hey, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm back with another part of my ongoing series this past year about how endurance athletes should best fuel, train, and perform for improving performance. And of course, the aging process, making sure we're doing everything we can now to improve our future selves. And as I discovered on some makeup ad, my new favorite saying is live simply ageless. That's my mission as I turn 50. I just don't want to have all those stereotypical things as I get older, I can't do this or that. And how do we train as we get older? As you maybe are over 50 or reaching 50, you might find yourself needing to train a little differently than you used to. So I always say don't blame the aging process, but embrace it and change with it. Don't try to do the same routine, same program that you did when you're 20, 30, 40 years old and expect the same results. So definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same thing. So what do we do? Well, let me get my screen to switch slides. So I've been talking a lot about fasted or not because personal experience, I started getting into fasting. Gosh, what year is it? It's 2023, 19. I closed my studio. So it was like 2017, 18, 19. Maybe 2018, I started getting into more fasting because I closed my fitness studio October 2019. So I know we were doing fasting before that, doing time restricted eating and really working on not having as much food and putting it in that time restricted window. But what if you're an athlete? Was I fasting too much? Probably yes. I was working out, teaching classes, training my clients. I was moving. I was doing my own training on top of that. So if I was doing one meal a day, so I would go eat a big meal of like ground beef and I was doing kind of the higher fat protein at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I would only be drinking fat coffee all day. Well, is that good for me? So I'm trying to look at all this information. We all hear another popular podcast as Dr. Mindy Pell's. A lot of my clients are coming to me for help because they're listening to Dr. Mindy about fasting, but that's for metabolically ill people, not for the active high performer, high charging athlete, as most of all you are, similar to myself. So we need to take the information we hear on the benefits of fasting and know if it's appropriate for you depending on your goals and health issues, concerns. So I have these slides I've went over before, but I've been adding to them because you have to realize that exercise, it gives you many benefits of cell autophagy and mitophagy. So cleaning out the dead cells and getting it new cells in, cleaning house. Now, go over some things here. Fasted exercise and aging. Fasting overnight, 8 to 12 hours, then easy exercise session can help with aging. But remember, it's an easy exercise session. A lot of people are doing this wrong. Well, I can't say wrong because I know I wake up and work out and just have a little bit of coffee and water and my LMNT, my water. But it depends on what you ate the night before and your intensity of your workout. But morning, if you ate 12 hours before, you might not need to do exercise. But if it's early morning workout, ideally is your easy workout, zone 1, zone 2. But then it's a different story if you're doing HIIT training or doing some more like the power meter type of FTP workout on the bike. Or if you're doing sprint workouts, do you need to eat something beforehand or have some calories? If you're male versus female, if you ate the night before, when is it appropriate? And again, I work with that with clients individually because it always goes back to what did you do the day before? How was your sleep? What was your food plan yesterday and your workout program the day before? And how does that workout feel? Was it great? Then maybe it's okay to do fasted. But if it was crappy and you're slow and sluggish feeling, maybe you could experiment by adding a little bit of fuel beforehand, even if it's doing some fat coffee, some collagen, creatine, or maybe adding in some MCT in there, or something else you can do. So doesn't mean a big meal, but just something in your coffee or tea or water. So that's where fasted exercise kind of gets complicated. But what are the benefits? For aging, BDNF, you might have heard of, brain-derived neural factor, is amplified with aerobic training over strength training, increases doing easy zone 1, zone 2 exercise in a fasted state as a walk or easy swim or gentle hike. Sauna and lion's mane extract also increase BDNF. Increase in growth hormone, anabolic growth hormone, testosterone response, maintain, preserve those proteins for enhancing muscle fiber repair via protein synthesis via the growth hormone. We don't have enough calories on board if you're doing fasting, but we need to maintain muscle. So we need to increase growth hormone production. This is from information on fasted exercise. So I'm trying to get stronger and gain muscle and not lose it as I age. So fasting does increase growth hormone. So does, I think the sauna sessions I've read on or listened to Huberman Lab on the sauna protocols and the cold therapy all help our BDNF and help hormone. But this is regarding early morning fasted exercise that's easy zone 1, zone 2. Does it improve brain health and aging? So this is great information. I'm not going to get into all this today, but this is from Ben Greenfield in a seminar that he gave a few years ago, but fast exercise and hormone production. This is where it gets kind of tricky if you're a female athlete when we're looking at the hormones. So when to do over a fast exercise or glycogen depleted exercise as doing HIIT training or speed workout and completely fasted state overnight, some people might see a drop in hormone production when you're doing more high intensity interval training fasted. Females, the body is focused on fertility reproduction. So that's that hormone kisspeptin we've talked about. Your body doesn't want you to be chased by a lion and feel threatened. So it kind of protects you. And so that's one issue, looking at the female hormones and too much fasted hard workouts. Ideally, you save your harder workouts in the afternoon because then you can time your lunch or brunch 2-3 hours beforehand and have fuel on board. Waking up in the morning, doing a hard workout, you can do it if you fasted 8 to 12 hours, but take note, you might have improved performance if you haven't eaten for, say, 15 hours. For me, for example, some days I'll eat a big lunch at 2:00, and until recently, I was pretty strict on not eating anything after 4:00, even though I was lifting weights at night. And I realized that's probably not a great idea if I need some bone broth or some amino acids or a whey protein shake in the evening, because I don't like eating a big solid meal before bedtime because I go to bed at 8:00. So I have to time it. If I did a too long of fast and my morning workout was a speed run or a hard bike interval FTP workout, I'm experimenting with when is it appropriate to add a little fuel into my coffee, as some Laird's turmeric creamer has MCT oil that I've been doing, and some other things. Anyways, so getting up in the morning, female athletes, only time to do your hard workout. You can do it fasted if you're 8 to 12 hours. Don't try to do it and expect the best results if you're going to do a 24-hour fast, for example. Men want to get their post-workout nutrition. Women, some research, Dr. Stacy Sims has shared that Ben Greenfield talks about adding a small workout snack before a workout that's non-insulinogenic, even taking essential amino acids, 20 grams, which is a lot of capsules, or the Kion aminos in water, powdered version. I don't like stevia, so I'm always trying to find something without stevia. MCT oil you can put in your coffee if you're going to be doing a hard workout. There's also different mixes as Laird's or Keto Brains. There's Team Keto. They have a bunch of different things too you can add in. So MCT oil and some collagen and some creatine might be good. So that's if you're doing a hard workout. Remember, the hormone kisspeptin gets down regulated for a lot of us female athletes when your body has extra stress. So if you're already stressed out from your life, your external stressors, and then you have these additional sources of unknown, unless you've done functional lab testing, hidden sources of chronic stress, that, remember, overloads your beaker of stress. And so when you add in fasted exercise and doing a longer than 15-hour fast, and then working out in the morning and doing a harder heart rate than zone 1, 2, you may be adding another source of stress to your body that you just can't cope with. So remember that beaker of stress, it doesn't have any judgment, it doesn't discriminate. So you want to make sure you listen to your body and know, oh, maybe I should have a little something. And to me, it makes my coffee taste better if I add a little something to it. So it's okay knowing that it's going to improve my performance and not cause more stress to my body. Also monitoring your biometrics. Remember, the Aura and the Whoop and different devices are not 100% accurate because you're not connected to your brain with anything overnight, and you're not wearing a heart rate monitor chest strap to really get your full real-time heart rate variability. But paying attention to what your normal HRV is, so you know if it drops. Like mine's over 100 and then it's been 70 when I got off the low carb cruise conference because I was busy early morning to late at night, not going to bed when I normally do. And I was really down for the count last week, and I need to be careful that I don't add in other stressors as doing extended fasting. Okay, so fasted exercise guidelines we've gone over before, previous videos, but when to eat breakfast, breaking your fast is breakfast, exercise first and then eat. Women, I've suggested experimenting having that protein as a whey shake with water and ice blended together in a shaker bottle post-workout in 30 minutes to 45 minutes, where men can wait up to 3 hours. Some research has shown that's based on Dr. Stacy Sims. So if you exercise before breakfast, you don't include carbohydrates unless doing a 2-a-day workout. So if you're going to work out in the morning and then you eat, and then you know you're going to go do a hard workout at noon, like I often do master swim workout in Solana Beach, then I need to prioritize eating afterwards and maybe having some potatoes in with my eggs and bacon or something. So I've been experimenting eating earlier because I can't obviously eat before swimming. So I need to time, and instead of waiting to eat until 10 in the morning and then go swimming at noon, I need to eat at 9 in the morning because I work out at, say, 5:30 a.m. So anyways, it gets complicated, but that's what I work with clients. Let's look at your ideal day and time everything out. All right, so the other thing we talk about, a fasted exercise guidelines to get the benefits are an easy walk in the sunshine. Ideally, that's what we should be doing. Getting up, get outside, get your eyes exposed to that morning sunlight, walking, if you can do it barefoot on grass, even better on the beach, but getting outside in that morning sunshine and getting movement, that's great to do fasted. And then maybe you do a cold therapy plunge, or you do, like I just do just have a shower that's cooler and then end on cold, and 20 seconds cold is good for me. So, and then you eat your lunch, and then ideally, if you can time when you do your harder, more high intensity interval training, that's going to get your heart rate up into zone 4, zone 5, do it later in the day after you ate, say your lunch, brunch, 2 hours, and do it before dinner. So then you can kind of space that out a little better. And then work backwards again for your ideal day. When you go to bed, I go to bed at 8 o'clock, I'm in bed because I get up at 4:30, 5 a.m. and sleep is a serious priority for me. So I time my dinner to be done eating before 5. So stop eating 3 hours before bed. If you worked out, you need something, have some of the essential amino acids as Keon. Remember, save with Keon on our low carb athlete code. Okay. So just summarize this part because I have so much to go through today and I didn't want to go into this too much. But if you're already lean and near your ideal weight, don't do so much fasting. We're getting our hormones out of whack, most of us females, right? So this kisspeptin hormone, we got to be careful not fasting before your week before your cycle, so late luteal phase. making sure you're getting enough of the animal-based diet, getting those proteins to get the essential amino acids. So make sure you're not doing too much fasted exercise or working out too much and not getting enough calories in, because what I'm finding is that we end up not eating enough. So if example, Sundays, I go for a long run, I go get coffee afterwards, go walk on the beach. And by the time I get home and eat, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I really ate one meal that day, because by the time I get home and eat lunch, say it's 2 o'clock, maybe I'll eat something else, but usually it's one main meal and then maybe something smaller than coffee. It's not enough calories and not enough protein, because I'm trying to hit my protein goals. So really doing too much fasted exercise, but also getting enough calories in, hitting your protein goals, 100 grams or more, or remember your ideal body weight pounds is equivalent to your optimal protein intake. So looking at all this is all in ebooks on my website, debbiepotts.net. You can download for free. And don't worry, I don't send newsletters out very often, a few times a year. So glycogen depleted workout, you'll drop amino acids. So maybe, take some amino acids to not feel that fatigue. Decreased intensity, low level aerobic endurance, you're burning more fat. And powerlifting is using the creatine phosphate system if you're doing 10 to 30 second hard efforts. So you might not feel a difference in performance if that's fasted. But then when you're doing more CrossFit, harder intervals of 2 to 4 minutes, kind of maybe zone 4 workout, you may feel the need to add some fuel beforehand and not do that fasted. So metabolic intervals, CrossFit, hard intervals, you might improve performance. Hopefully that's your goal, is to improve performance. That's when you might be better having a little something beforehand. If it's like a Vespa, or if you're having a little bit of I find it easier to just throw stuff in a coffee. So just make sure you're fasting before easy exercise, and you ate 12, 15 hours before, and you should be fine. If you're doing more glycogen depleting workout as interval training, 2-4 minutes or longer, you may perform better with a little bit of fuel before. So just not insulinogenic. Okay, so next, let's go on. So lean trained female athletes, as I said, watch out versus male athletes. Women tend to burn more fat after workouts and take little carbs before workout, then fast after workout. Burn more fat and avoid hormonal issues by eating a little before. That's Dr. Stacy Sims' research, and Ben Greenfield teaches us that as well in our program. Men can do fasted workout before and then eat afterwards, and they'll burn more fat. So women, you might actually burn more fat if you have a little carbs, if it's having some honey in your coffee as a natural sweetener, coconut sugar, you might actually be burning more. Isn't that crazy? So not less is more, sometimes finding a little bit of something. So remember, becoming fat adapted first, but that process can take 1 to 2 years to really get into fast exercise. Now, I've been doing this for 15 years, so my body's pretty fat adapted, used to this. Okay, so if you want to do fasted exercise, I like Ketone IQ from HVMN. Essential amino acids you can get from Keon, Low Carb Athlete. For all of these, you get discounts. Adrenal Cocktail I get from my Full Script account. You can order supplements at a discount through me if you want to get more functional discounts or functional medicines products. But Adrenal Cocktail is good. Sodium and potassium and vitamin C that gets depleted for stressed out people, which are athletes. So other things, if you're doing a 2 a day, just watch out. You're fueling afterwards and getting those amino acids. So that's where eating more grass-fed meat will help in getting your salts and salting food. I've been really thirsty lately, adding salt to everything. Even I had almond butter. I poured a bunch of Redmond's real salt in it. It was super good. Getting your electrolytes too. So we went over all this. I won't go into that. And athletes. So what I want to talk about research is, Rob Wolf talked about this in my podcast a couple years ago. Exercise has been shown to promote cellular autophagy and mitophagy. I probably say the words wrong. I say autophagy is a cellular process responsible for recycling and removing damaged or dysfunctional components, including proteins, organelles, and even entire cells, to maintain cellular health and homeostasis. So taking out the garbage. Mitophagy refers to selective degradation of mitochondria through autophagy. Exercise, specifically aerobic exercise, has been found to increase autophagy and mitophagy in various tissues and cell types. So if your goal to do fasting is to improve cell autophagy, as an athlete, you are already getting it. So we don't need to worry as much, as a lot of these people doing all these fasting protocols are people that don't exercise. I meet them at conferences. They are really working hard at doing a keto, carnivore, proper human diet, but they're not exercising. My clients and my listeners, I think you are an endurance athlete doing at least one workout a day, and you're doing a long distance stuff. And hopefully prioritizing weightlifting over cardio as you get older, and doing HIIT training appropriately, doing zone 1, go to zone 5, go down to zone 1. So you really need to look at your why, because you are burning a lot of calories already. We're doing this long fasting. We're not getting enough calories in, and we're not going to hit our protein goals as we're trying to avoid muscle loss as we get older. So it really doesn't make sense to do more than the 12 to 15 hour fast. So we get the benefits, as you see here on the slide, on researching online that exercise can help. The exact mechanisms through exercise stimulates these processes are not fully understood, but they're signaling pathways as AMPK and mTOR and PGC1A alpha. So you'll hear about those words. So other research, what is the best type of exercise to have this? Well, endurance or aerobic exercise. So zone 2 is your endurance zone. Maffetone, max aerobic function heart rate, 180 minus your age, plus or minus 5 beats is a good place to start if you don't have access to metabolic testing as seeing me in person. So running, cycling, swimming, brisk walking, anything that increases that heart rate and gets oxygen consumption shown to induce autophagy, mitophagy, and skeletal tissue, heart tissue, and other organs. Now, I know a lot of people that walk, and I know if I walk, my heart rate is not in zone 2. So you need to get into that zone 2 to get the benefits. So if you're just walking, I have categories in my holistic method coaching. It's movement and mobility. And then there's exercise. And then I could break the exercise into HIIT training, zone 2 training, and strength training. So sadly, you need to do it all. So high intensity interval training, HIIT, short bursts of intense training. Zone 5, again, is at 10 to 30 seconds. And I have a chart on that. And zone 4 is a little bit longer, like the 2 to 4 minutes. And then there's zone 3. So HIIT training has been found to enhance autophagy and mitophagy and skeletal muscle. Resistance strength training, weightlifting, resistance band workouts can also help in the skeletal muscle. And then calorie restriction combined with exercise. So that would be intermittent fasting, time restricted eating, not restricting necessary calories, but time restricted eating, I would say. So has effects of course, autophagy and mitophagy. So important to note the intensity, duration, frequency, exercise influences this, as well as age, fitness level, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So aerobic exercise, HIIT training, or strength training. Got that? Okay. So what do we do if I did your fitness test? We identify your areas of opportunity, your limiters, and we can identify what are your true zones so you're not guessing. So zone 1, zone 2 is zone 1's recovery. Zone 2 is your cardio. So you're saying like they're 40 minutes or more. So you do that once a week for maintenance. Tempo, maybe you do that one workout a week. And that's where you're holding zone 3 for 10 to 20 minutes. So that's tempo. If you're doing a longer interval training, that's hanging out top of zone 3, bottom of zone 4. That would be doing 5 to 10 minutes in that zone 3, 4. And you're going to recover every 5 to 10 minutes, half that time. So if you're doing a 5-minute piece in zone 3, 4, then you're going to go 2.5 minutes in zone 1. Okay, so you're going to come all the way back down to zone 1, might be 110, 120 under there, heart rate. So then maybe you need to spend 1 day a week or 2 times a week, depending on what your results say on your test that we do in zone 4, zone 5. So zone 4 is medium intervals are 30 to 90 seconds. Zone 5, short intervals are 10 to 30 seconds. So you want to be in that zone, up at that heart rate, which your heart rate won't keep up that fast. So you have to do perceived exertion level is going to be a 10 out of a 10. The medium long intervals, you're 8 to 9 out of a 10, and long is 7 to 8. But you'll be able to get your heart rate on the long intervals. It's more the medium is short. There's that lag time if you're wearing your heart rate chest strap to monitor your heart rate. So you can look on this graph from Daniel Crumbach, who created our metabolic expert training program. Work to rest ratios is really important. So the recovery duration coming back down to zone 1 is key when you're doing any of these intervals, tempo, long interval, medium, or short interval. A lot of you, especially I had my zone in my fitness studio for years, you're doing the high intensity interval training saying up to zone 4. If you did my zone, it'd be red on the screen and then yellow for zone 4. But you have to come all the way back down to zone 1, the blue zone. So if you're doing interval training at a fitness studio and it's on the TV screen monitor, I want true interval training all the way up, all the way down. Don't start going up again until you've been there and you're down part in that appropriate recovery time. So that is a proper way to do interval training and your zone 2 to get the benefits of the cell and mitophagy cleaning house of the dead cells. All right, this is exhausting. Train low, compete high, and increase your fat metabolism. So if you're trying to burn more fat, not doing the fasted exercise all the time, when to eat, here are some tips from Dr. Dan Plews. Has a great article on his website, Training Low, Training, Compete High. So I'll read this to you. Even if slightly lower glycogen stores, training low and competing high or saving carbs for the hardest workouts enhances your fat metabolism and increases endurance performance. Eat a low-carb diet and occasionally throw carbs in it. Strategic carb timing. This is opposite what my keto carnivore friends say. This is for performance. So if you're doing more high intensity, I've been listening to Dr. Dan Plews and Zach Bitter. What did they say? And it also looks at what intensity the workout is. So if you're doing a Metcon in the morning, the carbs you eat in the evening should be enough to fuel you in the morning workout. Or if you're not doing carbs, you're doing more of a strict keto carnivore diet, that food should gluconeogenesis fill up your liver, the muscle glycogen stores that would be needed for the workout. But now overnight, your liver glycogen gets depleted, not your muscle glycogen. So you have to kind of see how do you feel for those morning workouts. So I would do morning boost, essential amino acids, creatine pre-workout. And I've been using Cynthia Thurlow's creatine. I really like that. I tried Brad Kearns has a whey protein with creatine that I like for post-workout. Really blended up great in my water shaker bottle. I could just take with me to the club. So you can do that instead of using carbs. So you want to keep insulinogenic so you don't spike glucose up. That would cause insulin to come up. But keeping your carbs in the evening is one suggestion. 2 workouts a day. The other thing, if you're doing 8 hours apart, consume carbs 20 to 60 minutes post your first workout to refuel for the second workout. Now, keto carnivore world, I'm trying to listen to that perspective that you don't need carbs, but I was listening to Dan Plews on Zach Bitter's podcast saying in a workout, you may need some strategic carbs because you need them quickly. Yes, you can convert protein into muscle glycogen, but it takes longer. And so we want to make sure you have enough time to break your food down and use it as fuel that you might need some carbs. So you have to experiment, I think. Yes, you don't need carbs, but for athletes, you're trying to hit it quickly, any quick instant energy, you might need something if you're doing a 2-day workout. So S Fuels has a bar. I know Laird Superfoods, they have a new bar with some mushroom adaptogens in it. So keeping your carbs after the first workout second workout, you could do S Fuels bar, has 20 grams of carbs. So that's one option and some whey protein in it. So going back to fasted, just listen to your body. And for females, we want to time it correctly to your cycle. So I'm going to go back down. I was testing your zones, talking about this, test and not guess where you should be, and then fueling. I like S Fuels. There's F-Bomb nut butters that have some MCT oils, electrolytes. I like LMNT and Real Light. Essential amino acids, pre, during, post workouts I've done for a long time. Protein, we want to make sure we're getting a leucine. So essential amino acids post workout. So that's why whey protein or the beef protein is really great. If you're doing vegetarian, you need to add the right combination of what's the vegan proteins, pea protein, two others that has the full essential amino acids, because you want to get that leucine amount in the full essential amino acid, enough leucine to get the muscle protein synthesis. And I really like bone broth, adding some butter in there. So testing, not guessing, with your zones when you do a Pinoy metabolic test would help you figure it out. And then different research, Dr. Dan Plews and Professor Noakes, they have the article, different courses for different horses, looking at anything above your anaerobic threshold, your high end of your heart rate zones, probably zone 3 and above, point where your metabolic crossover point, where carb usage comes up and fat goes down. That would be your zone 3, where we figure out the bottom of zone 3, and then higher up, obviously, is getting your peak VO2. So you're more carb burning there. So if you're doing interval training, you are going to be burning more carbohydrates. So that's where they talk about point where you need to add in extra carbs before exercise if you're missing power. So that's why I look at my clients. How do you feel? How is your workout performance? How is your speed, your power output? Were you hitting in the goal numbers? Or if you were struggling, that's when you might need to add a little bit extra calories or a little bit carbs, strategic carb timing, pre-workout, or when you're doing a HIIT and a VO2 max workout. So they suggest 20 grams, 60 max, especially when you're doing longer exercise. Start by doing the fat coffee, and then after about hour and a half, 2 hours into that long bike ride, long trail run, you can add in maybe some little bit of carbs in there too, and experiment, as Zach Bitter is doing ultra long run, or if you're doing Ironmans, you're doing, say, a 4 to 6 hour bike ride, when to add in some protein, fat in your carbs. So depends on intensity and duration, and then testing, the metabolic testing, we'll find out your fat oxidation, minimal carb intake, and reduce insulin. We'll find where your zones are, where you're burning the most fat and you're more glycogen sparing. So you'll be using more fat, not using the carbs stored in those muscles until you need it later on. So kind of experiment for you to look at. So Dr. Dan Plews and then DRIQ program has this slide: endurance, strength, Ironman specific, half Ironman, VO2 max, HIIT training. That's where you could add in a little bit of carbs in your coffee, or I like keto gains. They have some great charts too. I put in my slides too. But then, what to do is so dependent. And again, it depends on what I ate the day before. Like yesterday, I wasn't home all day. I didn't eat enough. I had brought some bacon with me in a bag, and I had that bit long jerky. I had 2 bags of that and bacon and Laird's bar, and that's all I had all day till I got home. And then I made a shake because it's too late to have dinner. But I probably didn't have enough. I was trying to get my protein, but I still kind of felt kind of leggy today in my workout. So looking at the whole picture. And then their other chart in the article Dan Plews has, right fuel, right time approach on a DRQ that they kind of promote with work together with S Fuels. This is a great chart to look at in the article Dan has on endurance, 4 to 24 hours pre-workout, what to have, 1 hour pre-workout, during early stages of training, during later stages of training, post-workout targets. So this kind of good N=1 experiment, because everyone's different. Dan Plews actually is going to hopefully win this weekend Ironman triathlon race. He is a great example how all this works, but they're doing different studies on different athletes, and some can tolerate more carbs than others, and each hour, and then overall in the day, and then others don't need as many. So Dan says 130 grams of carbs when you are fat adapted is plus or minus a good range. So you have to experiment with you after you become fat adapted. So there's that kind of transition period. And then during training, what do you need for fuel? Water, electrolytes versus low carb fuel as S fuels or UCAN. And then when to add in whole foods. I know clients are doing trail running, long distance trails that they have some packed food, real food sources. I like taking F-bombs or some macadamia nuts, something just salty. So strategic carb training, looking at what Dan talks about, restricting carb intake around and during lower intensity activity with low glycolytic demand. He says, don't be afraid to ingest carbohydrates during very long duration sessions that are over 90, 120 minutes, targeted at improving your fat oxidation, because this will help you extend the duration of those sessions. So after about 2 hours, I'll sometimes have on my bike ride, if I'm feeling a little bit hungry, Laird's superfood bar, or you can do S Fuels bar or Keon bar. They have good, clean ingredients and they have some carbohydrates in there, and it might improve your performance. Might be able to get you to go longer, which is S Fuels go longer. During longer tempo space session where the intensity is in between, like probably that first and second threshold, maybe that zone 3, maybe a little more tempo, longer sessions. And I see people when people are riding with other people, at least in North San Diego, I see a lot of pace work, a lot of out of breath people. When you're running with someone, I see a lot of these guys running on the coastline on the 101, and they're not zone 2, they're anaerobic. So I see a lot of people doing probably too much in zone 3. That's why I'd love to do everyone's fitness test. See, where is your zone 2? How is your fat burning there? So if you are doing more zone 3 tempo workout, Dan says you may be more adapted to be gained by restricting carbs beforehand. So starting the session with a lower muscle glycogen stores. Fuel more intense sessions with a few extra carbohydrates to support training quality and to maximize the stimulus for adaptation. So also the article talks about ensuring adequate overall calories are both always ingested, even perhaps on days when you're having a lower carb intake. So check out S Fuels, spell check, S Fuels for right fuel, right time nutrition needs. This is an article on EndureIQ.com. Check out their blog on right fuel, right time carb manipulation to make every session count. Great article to review, because a lot of the information I'm talking to with people on the podcast are not racing high heart rate, prolonged distance. So I'm always questioning, if you're just doing normal strength training and HIIT training and 20, 30, 45 minutes max of endurance training, you don't need to do all this, I don't think. If you are going long distance racing, doing a half Ironman, doing a half marathon, going full Ironman, you need to experiment. So what is your purpose of the workout? What is your timing of your nutrition? When do you feel best eating your larger meals after workout? Making sure you're optimizing sleep. Remember, when you're not exercising, you're recovering or repairing. So prioritizing the protein and experimenting, not eating before, having something in your coffee before, or having a meal, but not working out for 2 hours afterwards. So timing everything is so important, but really seeing what works for you is going to be different, because all of our daily schedules and our life stressors are going to be different. So different research studies that they've had on PubMed that Dan Plews talked about in the Endure program on improvements of time trials after doing low carb, high fat, and when to put in carbs. So just looking at carb ingestion during exercise was beneficial for fat adapted athletes during high intensity endurance type. So that 4 to 30 minute length, so more tempo zone 3 workout, they benefited, but it said it likely did not benefit the short sprint, 30-second sprints, or prolonged endurance, more like the zone 2. So if you're doing more tempo pieces, you might have improved performance by adding in some fuel pre-workout. So that was from this study. I'm going to move my picture off here. During training, remember, you got to look at who the study's done on, what age were they, men and women. Look at who the studies are done and how long they did it, what type of diet they ate for how long. Was it just a 3-week keto diet? So this was ingesting carbohydrates during 3 weeks, during which they followed a usual low carb, high fat diet, ingested 60 grams per hour of carbs during 8 high intensity interval training sessions and performance trials. And after each phase, rates of fat oxidation were measured. And so the best ones that made changes in performance were the tempo. So interesting. So again, just always read these studies, but look at who are they done on. So to carb refeed or not, I think it's different for athletes. I know the people we've been working with at conferences are not good with carbs. They're just metabolically damaged. They have food addictions. I know I've said recently, if I had let myself have gluten-free bread, I would still want the full loaf. So I don't like eating starchy carbs. Or bread, muffins, croissants, stuff like that, because I'll overeat. And I think it's looking at what type of carbs you're refeeding with. So it's nature's carbs, as Dr. Minnie said, if it's berries, maybe some nuts, maybe some starchy potatoes, sweet potatoes or russet potatoes fried in bacon fat and served with a steak. So looking at all this information, again, hit to my website, listen to Rob Wolf a couple of years ago. Carb tolerance test would be good to do. Look at your blood sugar, wear NutriSense, and experiment. Not all carbs are evil. It's take away the crap. Do you need to do strict keto carnivore, or, is it proper human diet? You're still adding for athletes. Can add in sweet potatoes, yams, taro root, cassava, plantains, potatoes if you're not having problems with nightshades. So that's why carnivore is more people that it's elimination diet, because when I do food tests, you eliminate nightshades, FODMAPs, lectins, phytates, oxalates. That's all the vegetables. So there's nothing left to eat but animal-based diet and some berries, and get some avocado. So checking out what to do, look at S Fuels, look at Vespa, and you can read our studies we've done in the past, a podcast with Peter Defty, testing your lab markers, look at insulin resistance. You can go to my Ulta Labs and get that done for $20. Look at your full lipid panel, look at your full thyroid panel, your full thyroid panel, CRP, getting all this done. So head to my website and debbiepotts.net. We can look at doing a lab testing package for you. I just switched my program so I can do a kind of a low end, just assess what you're doing now. And then there's the bronze package, and then there's silver package, and the gold, and then VIP platinum package. So if you want to kind of assess what you're doing, start with the bronze package, is kind of more of assessment. Let's go over a couple sessions, what you're doing, what I do differently. And then next package is let's do some blood chemistry panel, nutritional therapy assessment, do your workouts, nutrition. Let's check out everything you're doing over 6 months and just meet once every couple months. Then there's gold, and then we meet more and do all the full labs. So check out the metabolic testing, PNOE, on my website. If you're near WHOLESTIC Method, I'm working on all these elements and resolving metabolic chaos, helping identify those external stressors, and then lab testing to find out the internal stressors, as GI map, Dutch test, HTMA, hair tissue mineral test, and food sensitivity wheat test. There's different ones we can choose. So thank you so much. Hopefully you can learn more and we can chat on a free discovery call. So that's it for today. Let me know if you have questions. Head to the YouTube channel, Low Carb Athlete, and subscribe so you can get these updates when I do a new video. See ya. Have a good day.